Hello everyone and welcome back again to the channel. My name is Fumilayo Tobon from Bet Media, and today I would be doing another Q&A just because I enjoyed the first Q&A that I did. So today would be another round of Q&A. If you want to see the first one where I talked about myself, my journey to Germany, being a programmer, starting Bet Media and starting this YouTube channel, you can click the link above to watch that. So let's get started with today's Q&A. Welcome back. So our first question is, how did you first become interested in programming? I would say programming was not something I really thought about before because I wanted to be an engineer and then I studied engineering. But when I decided to come for my master's, then I discovered that it would all be in Python. And I was like, oh my God, programming is so difficult. Programming is so hard. How would I be able to do it? But I was like, let me give it a try. And truly, it was difficult. It was very difficult. But then I started to like it. I think when you start to like something, the fear of it suddenly disappears. So then I started liking programming. I started liking what I could create, writing codes. How I started liking testing my codes. And now I do that full time. So I won't say I was interested in it. I guess it was interested in me, if that makes sense. Okay, number 2, what programming languages do you use on a day-to-day basis? I'd say Python. I absolutely love Python. Python is actually the first programming language that I learned, and I'm glad I started with Python and not with something more complex. So Python and PHP and JavaScript. That's what I use on my day-to-day basis. And then number 3, what was your educational background in relations to programming? So my master's was in informatics. So we did a lot of data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence. So that's why there are a lot of videos on this channel about artificial intelligence, because I got introduced to it during my master's program. So programming and my master programs were like 5 and 6. So next question, what challenges have you faced in my programming journey? And how did I overcome them? I think the very first challenge was fear, the fear of the unknown. So at first I was like so afraid, even before coming to Germany, right from when I was in Lagos and I got accepted for my master's program. And then they were like sending like all the things we will need, the type of laptop we should buy, the softwares to install on the laptop. And then I started watching like videos. I was like, oh my God, what did I sign up for? This looks so difficult. This looks so complicated. So I think at the beginning of my journey, it was just days and days of fear. And what I noticed is that with every assignment, with every project, as you just keep going and learning, it tends to get better. But then there's always like the fear with every new project. So this is my process. I get a new project. I have like a minute of panic where I'm like, oh my God, this is something new. How do I do this? How do I do that? And then I'm like, okay, but I have to do it. And then I go to the next step, which is research. Google. Check if there are other people who have worked on those projects. Check what steps they used for the project, what problems they had, and just research. And then you start coding. You start writing your code, you break it down. Like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to achieve. These are the steps that I'm going to take. And you start coding. And even in the process, you get stuck. You get confused. Like, this is not working. It was working for the guy on YouTube. And I'm trying it and I'm running it and I'm not getting the same answer that is getting. And then you copy your error and then you paste it on Stack Overflow. And then by chance, someone else had the same problem. And you're like, oh, how did you solve it? And then you go through the steps and you then apply it on your code. And you're like, but it still doesn't work. And then you go back again and you check. And then finally, it works. Everything works perfectly. And then you have like a minute of celebration, like, oh, it's working now. Everything is so perfect. Everything is so good. And then you submit. And then you go through the whole process again and again and again and again and again. But it does get better. because then the number of time you spend trying to troubleshoot, the more time you spend coding, the more you get better. Because I remember when I was having we used to have 101 with our professor. So when you submit your assignment, then you have 101 with your professor where you're explaining every single line of code. So it's just you, professor, and your code on the screen, and you're explaining every single line. And it got to one point I had to stop. I was like, how do you think I would ever get this? And then my professor told me, he was like, I've been doing this for close to 13 years. And I was like, Funmilayo, you just started. You just started 3 months ago. So do not expect that you will be on the same level as someone who has been coding for years and years and years. Just take it one step at a time, learn with every assignment, learn with every project, and then you will get better. So shout out to my professor. So that's what I go by. Just take it a step by step. You get afraid, and then you know that at the end, you celebrate. So that's my challenges so far. And then number 6, how do I stay updated with the latest trends and technologies in the programming field, or should I say in all my fields, programming, AI, and web design? I read about it. I check Twitter. So most times you check Twitter, you see what people who are also in your field are talking about. And then you go to the page, you read news articles about it, you even watch YouTube videos, because things are changing, things are improving day by day. And if you don't stay updated, you might miss out on the latest trend, the latest news and stuff. So you always have to stay updated. So I'm always researching. I'm always on my phone checking what is the new stuff that's out. What are people trying out? What is something that I should be looking at? And that's how I currently stay updated. And next question, can you discuss a particular difficult problem that you encountered and how did you solve it? So this is more of a recent problem that I had. So it's a code that I've written I guess 6 months ago, and then we wanted to update it, or I wanted to replicate it for another page. And then I was staring at the code that I wrote. It was my code and I did not understand anything. And I was just looking at it. I was like, I wrote this code. It works perfectly. Everyone uses it. But what was I thinking when I wrote this code? How did I write it? How did I put it together? And why can't I replicate it somewhere else? And then I spent hours just staring at it. And then I went through the process trying to remember. That is why it is good to document whatever you're doing. Try to remember what the problem was that time and why I was able to use this to solve that problem. And then I started going through it. And then I was now able to replicate the process. But it still wasn't working perfectly. This is something that I've learned to do, is that no one is an island. So you always have to collaborate. So I remember I called a member of my team and I was like, I'm working on this, but I feel like something is wrong. I feel like I'm missing something. And then it was like, okay, walk me through your process. Let me know what you want to achieve. Let me know what you're doing. And then we started going through the code. I started explaining this is what I want to do. This is how I'm doing it. And in the process of showing him what I was doing, then I found the problem. And I was like, I already know what the problem is. I was like, I can see the problem already. And I was like, okay, then fix it. And then I fixed it. And I was like, now it's working. So just by talking to somebody else and going through your thought process, going through the code, going through this is how I was planning to do it. This is the files I used. And I just saw the problem. I was like, I already know what the problem is. So that is one way to be able to solve problems. Sometimes by just saying the steps out loud, you will just catch yourself when you get to the part that is wrong. So that is something that I actually implement in my day-to-day life, but not every time. You don't want to bother people every single time you have a problem. Make sure that you've tried your best, and also do not waste much time. Because my manager will say that if you're spending hours on your own and you're not able to figure it out, ask for help, because then it might just be something someone will say and then the whole problem is solved. And then you would have wasted hours and hours on it. So it's just of knowing when is the appropriate time to ask for help. Because you don't want to call and ask for help and person like, have you tried this? Have you tried this? You want to start the conversation with, I have done this, I have done this, I have done that. And it's not working. Or this is where it's stuck. So it's just knowing a balance of when it's time to ask for help and not when it's just like you just start and you're asking for help immediately. And then the next step you're asking for help, the third step you're asking for help. The person will definitely get tired because they also have stuff that they are working on. So it's just knowing when is it the time to ask, like, I need help with this because I've already exhausted this step, this step, this step, this step, this step. Okay. So next question. How do you manage your time effectively when you're working on multiple projects? It's about priority, setting priority. What project is more important than the other? What deadline is closer? Because you don't want to work on something that the deadline is like 5 months away, and why you still have projects that the deadline is tomorrow. So it's all about setting priority. Who needs this and at what time? So the one with the earliest priority, the earliest deadline and highest priority takes the first on the list while the rest comes after. So that is the way to manage, because if you take everything all at once, you end up getting overwhelmed, you end up getting burnt out, and you would hate your job. You would definitely hate your job. But if you take it one by one, take it a step at a time, highest priority, closest, earliest deadline, then you should be able to manage. That's how I manage my time effectively. And next question. Have you ever worked on a project with a tight deadline, and how did you handle the pressure? I listen to lots of music. that's how I work. So even if I'm at the office, even I'm at home, I'm listening to music. There's like an headset on my head. I'm listening to music. So when I'm in that zone, I do not pay attention to whatever is going on around me. I'm just laser focused on the music and the project I'm working on. So I get to the office, I know what I'm supposed to work on that day. I put on my headset and I'm focused on that. The only time when I'm not is when I want to go and drink water, or if I need to talk to my manager about something. But I stay laser focused on my work. Remember, I work full time and I also have Bed Media, so I'm doing multiple things at the same time. So I have to learn to zone out every other thing else and focus on what I'm actually working on. Next question. What do you enjoy most about being a programmer when the project is over? There are joys that compare to this, but there is this kind of special joy, this special kind of happiness when you're given a project and then you complete it, or when you're done with your code and you send a pull request to people in your team to review the codes. And then they review it and it's successful. They like it. There's no comments. And then you merge your branch with the dev branch, and then everything works fine. And then they test it and it goes to UAT and it's tested again. And it finally goes to production. You're like, oh, it's finally over. But then again, you get the new project after that. So you're back to square one. But I said that is what I enjoy most. The process of seeing your artwork, seeing it and people actually use it. So you build something and someone actually uses it, and then it makes their work easier, or it makes their work better. So that is something that I enjoy. Next question. Have you ever experienced imposter syndrome as a programmer? I'll say not really. Not very. I'll say no. Imposter syndrome, like I'm not supposed to be where I am, or I'm not supposed to be doing what I'm doing. I don't think so. I worked for everything I've gotten. I put in the work. I'm putting the work every day. I've never for once doubted myself that I'm not supposed to be here. I've never felt like, why am I here? Or what am I doing? Or it's supposed to be somebody else. I know I put in the work. And I put in the work, I study. I'm studying every day. I'm researching every day. I'm trying to get better every day. I'm developing every day. So I've never for once felt out of place. I know that I'm where I'm supposed to be. If this is not where I'm supposed to be, then I wouldn't be here. I'll be doing something else. So I've never felt like I'm not supposed to be where I currently am. Then, next question. How do you balance creativity and functionality when designing and implementing solution? What I've learned is that no matter how creative you want to get, how you want your mind to run, the major thing is that you do whatever the client wants. Whatever the client wants is what they will get. Because if the client says that they want this, and then you want to go extra creative and say you want to give them heaven on earth, but they just want a simple plain logo on their entire website, you give them a single plain logo on their entire website. The client is always right. So that again limits your creativity, because you get a new project, you're all happy, like, oh, you want to go all out and be creative and do something exciting. But that's not what the client wants. So then what do? You keep your creativity at home and you give them what they want. So that's how I balance it, knowing that the project is not my project. I get all the requirements, like, what do you want it to do? How do you want it to look like? What do you want to achieve? What is the goal of this? And then sometimes you give options. You give options like, this is how it works, this is how it works. Choose, you can mix and match, and then they decide, and then you give them what they want. So that's how I balance my creativity and the functionality and whatever the client solely desires. Next question. So what do I think about AI and the fear of AI taking everybody's job? I see AI as an helpmate. I feel like we have not gotten to the point where we should be worried that AI is taking over the world. Do I think we might get to that point? I believe anything is possible. But currently, I use AI as an helpmate, because something that you would spend 7, 8, 9 hours trying to research, it actually shortens the time and therefore increases productivity, because then you're able to do more, you're able to achieve more. And while you're doing that, you're also learning the process. So I don't see AI as like you're just copying and pasting, giving the either ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini, and then you're just copying, because you're actually learning in the process. Because let me be honest, ChatGPT doesn't get it right all the time. So you have to know what you're even asking to even understand the solution you're getting out of it. Otherwise, everything you're just getting will be wrong. So you first have to understand it, and then it's able to make your work easier and better, and in the shortest period of time. So I don't see, I've not gotten to the stage where I'm afraid of AI. Now I just use it as an helpmate, and I use it in my day-to-day life. I especially use ChatGPT to write emails, because that's something I don't like communicating through emails, because I believe that emails doesn't carry the tone of the message. It's different when you're talking to somebody face to face, then the person gets the message, gets the tone, gets your emotions or whatever, rather than just typing. Then they don't know if the message is of urgency, or if it's a relaxed and chilled message, or if it's that you hate everybody, you want to set everything on fire kind of vibe that you're passing out. So that's why I just use ChatGPT, and it just makes my emails more professional. So that's other things I use ChatGPT for, and other AI stuff. So those are the questions for being a programmer. I've been a programmer now for how many years? 5 years. Wow. Almost 5 years. Wow. That's a long time. For 5 years. And would I change anything on my journey so far? Not really. Is there something I would do differently? Not really, because I started with Python, and I believe that anyone who is starting programming, Python is like the best way to start. And I have tutorials on my channels if you're just starting your Python journey. You can always start with it and start with building smaller projects. So I think starting with Python then helped me with PHP and Java and every other thing I'm using. So starting with Python for me was a great idea. Okay, would I be open to learn new programming language? Maybe like C# or C++? I don't know, because I don't currently use it in my day-to-day life. I don't use it for my personal project, and I don't use it for work. But if tomorrow, if they decide that, we now have to use C++ or C#, I'll probably grumble for like an hour or two. or maybe a day. Maybe I'll grumble for like a day. And then the next day I start learning it. I'm open to learn. I'm open to improve. I'm open to do stuff. I'll just grumble for like a day. And then I get straight to work. So that's it for this video. You can also answer these questions in the comment section. Let me know what you like about programming. What are things that you would have done differently? How long have you been programming? What languages do you currently program in? And is there something you don't like or something that you do enjoy? Let me know in the comment section. So that's it for this Q&A. I'll probably make another Q&A because it seems like I like talking about myself. So thank you. Bye for now.